Okay, so let's get started. First, we'll take a look at the history of the cross. This is a very traditional kind of Christian painting, but if you'll notice, there's a DK quote, "The three crosses on Mount Golgotha were biblical symbols of the three astrological crosses, the common or mutable cross, the fixed cross, and the cardinal cross," from esoteric astrology. And we'll be talking about those three crosses a little bit as we move through this material. So first, let's just take a quick look at the history of the cross. As I'm sure that most of you know, use of the cross as a sacred symbol long predates the Christian era. For example, the Celtic cross, which is similar to the illustration of the fixed cross found in the Blue Books, shown here, predates the Christian era by at least 1,200 years. Right? It looks like a Christian cross, but in fact, it's there were instances of this cross 1,200 years BC. We find even earlier examples in the European sun cross, which has both astronomical and astrological meanings. From South America, we have the Mayan cross at Palenque, which represents a central point where the many heavenly and earthly realms intersect. This cross-like figure actually represents the Mayan ceiba tree, which was believed to stand at the center of the world. So it's as much a sacred tree as it is a cross. Moreover, there are three temples within the temple complex where this cross was found, which include the Temple of the Cross, the Temple of the Sun, and the Temple of the Foliated Cross, which collectively functioned as a sacred codex that expanded on the meaning of the Palenque cross itself. So it was central to their belief system. Among those crosses with the deepest philosophical meanings is the Ansated cross, or Ankh, of the Egyptians, which was believed to be a bridge between the mortal and divine realms, with the loop of the Ankh, right, providing access to the energies of regeneration and immortality. That's why this Ankh was held up to the mouth of the pharaoh. It was literally a way of charging the that incarnation that was the pharaoh, that acted as a bridge between divinity and the material world. Indigenous cultures around the world also revered the cross, recognizing it as a symbol of the cosmic framework that reflected the natural world and its cycles, including the four directions and their associated elements. A much expanded philosophy of the cardinal points can be found in the stylized crosses that enclose many Hindu yantras. The four cardinally aligned endpoints of these crosses are seen as gateways designed to regulate the entry and flow of prana between the outer tangible realm and the inner sanctum of the yantra, which together promote transformation and inner alchemy. This yantra carries the potency of the number 4 through 5 levels, including the swastika at the center, which symbolizes the eternal cycle of creation, preservation, and destruction, with the central point representing the navel of Lord Vishnu, from which all creation originates. Though often more elaborate and referencing a different set of spiritual meanings, different but related, the enclosing 4 gated structure in the Tibetan Buddhist mandalas are very similar to those that enclose the Hindu yantra. In meditation, the Buddhist practitioner visualizes entering through these four gates into the consecrated realm of the higher worlds, represented by the inner geometric design. Other non-Christian uses of the cross include the Tarot's high priestess and the hangman. The high priestess, whose philosophical roots are found in the Egyptian Isis, is that great being from whom the manifested world flows. You can see that here in this sense of being at the head of a great river, whose essence is the shining substance that stands at the root of all matter. And ultimately, it is this essence, also called the anima mundi, that forms the horizontal arm of the cross, a cross on which each of us during incarnation is crucified, as shown by the hanged man. Paul Foster Case, the author of the book called simply The Tarot, says, the correct geometrical figure concealed by the hangman is a cross, surmounting a watery triangle. It signifies the multiplication of the tetrad by the triad. This is the number 12. The door, Daleth, is the vehicle of the tetrad, for it is the great womb also, and the head of the hangman reflected therein is the lux, in manifestation as the logos. He is Osiris, sacrifice, and Yod He Shin Vav He, Yeshua. This logoic sacrifice can also be construed from the cross within the circle, which is both the astrological symbol for the earth and the symbol for the third logos. In ancient Atlantis, this figure was a symbol for the four rivers of paradise flowing towards the center from the rim of the world. A much older variation of the hangman motif is the serpent atop the Tao cross, which, beyond the biblical blind illustrated here, suggests unlocking the hidden wisdom through one's experience in the material world. A similar idea can be construed from the Rosicrucian rose cross, which suggests that through the trials and symbolized by the cross arises the spiritual refinement and inner awakening, symbolized by the five-petaled central lotus or central rose. Of course, no presentation on the cross would be complete without reference to its association with Jesus and the historical Christ. On this, Alice Bailey, in her book From Bethlehem to Calvary, says, Christ himself laid no emphasis upon the death on the cross as being the apex of his life work. It was the result of his life work, but not that for which he came into the world. We shall see later that upon the revelation of the risen Christ must the new world religion take its stand. Christ upon the cross, as will appear when we study the next great crisis, showed us love and sacrifice carried to their extreme expression, but Christ alive from all time and vitally alive today is the keynote of the new age. And upon this truth must the new presentation of religion be built, and later the new theology be constructed. Numerologically, the cross represents the number 4, as cleverly indicated by the hangman's crossed legs. 4 is the number of matter, which is also represented by the cube, called by DK the imprisoning cube, because it represents the lower quaternary, which imprisons the soul in matter during incarnation, and which, when unfolded, gives us the cross. But 4 is also the number of the midway point, represented by the point where the two arms of the cross meet. As regards the cosmic physical plane, this midway point is the Buddhic plane, which, from the consciousness perspective, represents the transition from the horizontal to the vertical arm of the cross, onto which we will ascend when, at the 4th initiation, we've transcended the need to incarnate. In our chakric system, the 4th and midway point is the heart center, which, when awakened, brings us into conscious awareness of the life that imbues the vertical arm of the cross, represented in this context by the Kundalini fire. Theosophically, the cross is intrinsic to the 4th ray of harmony through conflict, which rules the 4th kingdom in nature. Indeed, under the influence of this ray, we are all simultaneously experiencing many different crosses, some in full awareness, others unconsciously. At the most primary level, all incarnated souls mount the cross of matter, symbolized by the 4-petaled chakra at the base of the spine, which is itself a cross. This represents the soul's deepest penetration into the 18 subplanes of the lower quaternary, which is itself a cross upon which our soul is crucified. The arms of this cross are formed by the 4 great lunar lords who preside over our dense physical, etheric, astral, and mental bodies. This cross of matter was created, we're told, by the cross currents of the involutional and evolutional cycles. An old commentary says simply, in the outgoing and the return, the cross is made. In the outgoing and the return, the cross is made. Meaning that during the involutional cycle, the horizontal arm, the arm of substance, was formed. And during this evolutionary cycle, we are gradually becoming aware of the inner life that represents the cross's vertical arm. As an explanation for why humanity must endure this immersion in matter, G.R.S. Mead, in his book Thrice Great Hermes, states, through the great opposites, the cross of all manifestation, humanity must know the mystery of ignorance as well as that of knowledge. Within the influence of light appears the shadow of the unknown, which translates itself to his consciousness as unknowable mysteries of the differentiation of the root of matter of the cosmos. This takes some pondering. So we have the cross of manifestation made up of 4 lunar lords representing the mental, astral, etheric, and dense physical sheaths, which dominates a human being's purpose and process for millennia. When the 4 arms of this cross are eventually integrated, they will collectively become the horizontal arm of the vertically oriented cross. In forming this cross of matter, unseen and unknown for millennia, is the vertical arm, which is informed by the soul, streaming its life-sustaining influence into the lower vehicles. This soul influence creates a progressive series of syntheses, beginning with the dense physical arm, which strove for integration with the etheric physical arm during ancient Lemurian times, a synthesis which is related to the opening of the first petal of the egoic lotus, and which has now been successfully achieved by all humanity. In the Atlantean root race, the now integrated physical arm then strove for integration with the new astral arm of the cross. I say new because the astral sheath was just beginning to influence humanity during the Atlantean root race. Because this root race was destroyed mid-cycle, integration of the astral is still in process for many people. We're still finishing the work that was begun in Atlantean times. The final lesser cross is made up of the synthesized physical astral arm striving to integrate with the mental sheath. These all represent cleavages that are in process of healing. This is the cross that most of humanity now finds itself on in varying degrees during this fifth Aryan root race. This synthesizing work, called individuation, is undertaken under the influence of Leo, the fifth sign of the zodiac. When fully integrated, the physical, etheric, astral, and mental sheaths then stand as one synthesized horizontal arm, which DK calls the integrated personality. Now with its own ray, this new personality expression begins a direct interplay with the as yet unrealized vertical arm of the cross, which is vitalized by the soul and its ray. This vertically oriented cross begins its influence during the Leonian phase of personality integration and continues during the stage of aspiration, discipleship, and on up through the third initiation, when the disciple becomes fully soul infused. This prolonged stage, with its many levels of personality soul integration, is represented by the struggle between the angel of the presence and the dweller on the threshold, with the angel representing the vertical arm of the cross and the dweller the horizontal arm. When the indwelling jiva mounts this cross, that is, when the angel becomes a living source in one's life, the 12-fold heart chakra becomes the central mediating agency between the two. Okay. In rays and initiations, we learn that the sign of the cross, as used in the Catholic religion, predates Christianity and is in fact a cosmic blessing that comes to us from the Great White Brotherhood of Sirius and was initially used on this globe to help establish the Aryan root race, giving cosmic meaning to the old commentary which states the light must enter vertically, right, and be radiated horizontally. That would be a way of describing making the sign of the cross. The actual source of this light, though felt through the agency of the soul for long eons, is, of course, the monad. And thus, at the fourth initiation, a new cross begins to exert its influence. The horizontal arm then becomes the personality as soul, and the vertical arm comes under the direct influence of the monad, with the means of connection between the two arms represented by the spiritual triad. You'll note that at every stage of development, these crosses are made up of a horizontal arm representing the form aspect that has already been integrated into the consciousness of the indweller, and a vertical arm representing that which has yet to be incorporated. Thus, these three crosses, or these many crosses, are relative and exist in infinite gradations, extending all the way up to and beyond the solar logos, whose horizontal arm includes the entire cosmic physical plane, and whose vertical arm is informed by such great constellational beings as Sirius, the Pleiades, and the Great Bear. Okay, the symbols for Earth, Venus, and Mercury hint at the relative stage of spiritual integration for planetary logoi based on the relationship between the cross and the circle within each symbol. For example, when we compare the symbols for Earth and Venus, we see that the ring pass not of the Earth, which represents the consciousness aspect, is defined by the cross of matter. They're one. Whereas in the Venus symbol, the ring pass not has altogether transcended this lower cross of matter. Mercury represents a similar stage of consciousness as Venus, but both being sacred planets, but with an added semicircle representing that planet's function as intermediary between the higher and lower realms. This progression is further illustrated by the rulers of the fourth and fifth hierarchies, with Mercury ruling the hierarchy of monads and Venus the dual hierarchy of soul and personality. See the progression here. Earth's cross within the circle emphasizes the lower or personality expression of the fifth hierarchy, because it's a dual hierarchy, shared, you could say, in consciousness by, in rulership by Venus and Earth. The many crosses formed by the relationship of that which has already been gained in the consciousness of the indwelling jiva and the next level of self-awareness to be integrated are sequentially impacted by the three astrological crosses, with the mutable cross in play during the eons-long experience gathering phase of development, the fixed cross coming into play as one nears personality integration, and the cardinal cross beginning to influence initiates who have become group conscious planetary agencies. The influence of each of these crosses further demonstrates through the four elements. In fact, the 12 unique combinations of cross and element, from mutable earth in Virgo all the way through to cardinal earth in Libra, constitute one of the primary influences of each of the 12 zodiacal signs. You could even say that that's truly the signature of the energy of each of these signs. These combinations of cross and element have both a horizontal and a vertical effect, which itself forms the cross of manifestation. First, for eons, the horizontal arm is constructed, moving us into an ever greater understanding of our world, of the outer environment that allows us to build strong, responsive forms, and then other combinations of cross and element provide in measured sequence the energetic influence that, in 1,000 subtle ways, stimulate unfoldment of that responsive inner spark, called in turn the imprisoned soul, the Christ principle, and the vertical arm of the cross. I'd like to close this section with a quote from Rays and Initiations. In the cross is hidden light. The vertical and horizontal in mutual friction creates a vibrant cross which scintillates, and thus motion originates. When the vertical assumes the horizontal, pralaya supervenes. Evolution is the movement of the horizontal to upright positiveness. In the secret of direction lies the hidden wisdoms. In the doctrine of absorption lies the healing faculty. In the point becoming the line, and the line becoming the cross, is evolution. In the cross swinging to the horizontal lies salvation and pralayic peace.